With us now on the West Her Hotline, 1 day closer to the wild card matchup, Bills and Jaguars on Sunday, and some injury developments today. I'm probably most curious, well, I'd say two guys from this list, Sal. Matt Prater, who today is listed as having practiced in full, so you'll tell us if that you think that means he's like fine now. And Ty Johnson, Bulldog pointed out yesterday how don't ignore his name on the injury report because he matters a lot to the Bills. So Prater first.
Yeah. Hi, good afternoon, guys. I would say the question is, is he fine? I don't know. Right? How could we judge that? He did practice in full today. That's for a kicker, whatever his normal amount of reps is. That means he took. I guess the question would be how he feels tomorrow, right? Really more than anything. How do you feel after having your normal amount of reps, after kicking? So I think it's obviously very encouraging for Matt Prater to be, a full participant today, especially after yesterday when he said to us that he was confident that he could get a full weekend and, the rest of the weekend, I should say, and, get a full Thursday in. And that's where it's trending. So I like where that's trending. I still think you have to be very cognizant of it. And by the time you get to Saturday, think about, is he truly in the spot that you can trust him to not only start a game, but get through a game? I think that's the question they're going to have to ask themselves. And then on Ty Johnson, that's a really big name on this list. I mean, he's a guy that does a lot for the Bills. He's a very good pass-catching running back. We know that. He's very good in pass protection. They love him as a third down back. He hasn't practiced for 2 straight days, but I think, over the last 5 weeks or so, really since maybe December, if I remember back, there's been different guys who Sean McDermott would come on Friday and they hadn't practiced on Wednesday or Thursday, and he'd say, he's going to be limited today and we'll see how it goes. So I wouldn't rule him out, obviously, here on a Thursday, and I do think that, we'll wait till tomorrow to see what McDermott has to say about him.
Yeah, they might just trying to be extra careful, give him as much time as possible, don't rush it, and, hopefully he can serve some purpose. He did finish the game, did he not? Right?
He did. He scored a touchdown after he got hurt.
Right. So,
even when he got hurt, Bulldog, on the sidelines, the official report was probable to return.
Right.
He got bent back pretty good. When it happened, you could see it. He limped off the field. I knew it right away. You got eyes on him. You're like, okay, he just came off. Let's see what happens here. Went in the tent. Then we get the report, ankle probable to return, which was good because they only had one other running back really available, in Ray Davis. Mm-hmm. And then he went back in and he scored a touchdown. So, but you know how these things go. Your adrenaline's pumping, you tape it up, and then after the game, you're like, okay, well, guess what? There's a little bit more here than we thought.
Gets stiff.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not a skate to take off, but still, right. You take the tape off and the thing might swell up on you.
I always want to couch the Prater stuff because we don't know exactly what it is that he's got. It's enough for him to have missed the second half and to be on the injury report and so on. And he missed games before that. But, man, again, I'm just like, if he's fine, if he feels good tomorrow, then we just risk it. Or, still have the other guy, the new guy, Matthew Wright, as an emergency if he has a setback or something like that. I don't know. Mm-hmm. It scares me a little bit. I think I might already want to be done with this coming off a recurrence of that injury, but the Bills are seemingly not.
No, that's right. We're not in the shoes of the medical staff and the trainers or Matt Prater, other than what he tells us. And he could be feeling much better than we all maybe think here just by looking at it from the outside. It could be really, when he used the word precautionary for Sunday, when he talked to us yesterday, that was really encouraging to me. Meaning, okay, well, that's good. It wasn't like he really something happened where he's like, oh my God, I'm in danger of missing. It was more like, okay, the weather wasn't great, wasn't feeling that great. Let's not risk anything. So to be in this position, obviously is encouraging. So get to Saturday, 4 p.m. is the deadline. If they're going to have any elevations, Matthew Wright would be the guy if they want to do that. If they don't elevate Matthew Wright at 4 p.m. on Saturday, then they're rolling with Matt Prater, and then you're like, okay, please get through the game.
Right.
If they do, it doesn't mean he's going to play, but man, I would find it hard. Well, I shouldn't say that. You could do it one of two ways. He gets elevated, and it's really just precaution until you get to 11:30 a.m. on Sunday and see how Matt plays, Matt Prater feels, or you literally have a plan to say we're going to have him on the active roster just in case.
Yeah, I'm pretty. I think yesterday I would have said to you, maybe dress them both just to be sure. Now I'm more at maybe call them up. You burn one of those practice squad call-ups and then leave him inactive if Prater feels good Sunday. I would bet, Sal, like you know the timeline better than me, like flying Saturday, they get there, like the plane might be a key part of this. Like how is he off the plane? Like so they get off the plane and go to the hotel. I would think trainers got to check in right away. How is Matt Prater? Right? I don't know how that lines up with 4 p.m. And when they have to make that decision on Wright, whether or not to elevate him from the practice squad or not. But I would assume a big check-in right after they get off the plane is in order.
It's a good point you make about the timing because generally we do land in the city we go to probably about 3:30 or so. So I think their decision will be made before then, right? You know what I mean?
Yep,
and just make sure. But you're right. And then you'll see where it goes. So I think they'll probably have a plan and make the decision before then. But you're right on the timing there. Absolutely, you just get them right there, and let's go to treatment, make sure you're all good, and everything like that. So the other part about this is, of course, guys, as you know, you only get 2 elevations, and if you use one on Matthew Wright, then you can't use one on somebody else. And right now, I mean, Terrell Bernard has not played 2 days in a row, practiced, and Shaq Thompson's dealing with a neck injury. I would expect Shaq to play. I mean, he played the week after the neck injury, but you might want to have another guy like Keontae Jenkins or Balen Spector because now suddenly Joe Andreessen becomes your backup middle linebacker. And if something were to happen to Shaq, then you got to use Joe there. So now what happens with your special teams? Plus you have 2 days in a row now of Joshua Palmer not practicing. I mean, that's starting to trend like he's not going to play. So what do you do there? Do you trust Keon Coleman enough to have him active? Or do you feel that you need Mecole Hardman because you don't want to lose Khalil Shakir to some random thing that happens on a punt return? You know what I mean? Like, I think there's just so many decisions you have to think about here.
And Ty Johnson, who we already talked about.
Correct. Yep. And Ty Johnson.
You'd want another
yep.
running back, I would think.
Yep. Oh, yeah. That's right, guys. If Ty Johnson can't go, I would go there. One of the first positions I would look at. If Ty Johnson can't go, I don't think you can go into a game with 2 running backs. I think you'd have to elevate Frank Gore in that situation.
How do you like Allen's chances of running a lot here in this game, Sal? It's such a weapon, a feature that teams don't often have to face week to week. It's all on the line here. We're looking at some of the props earlier, 38.5 yards. I mean, I guess some of it depends on his foot, but I mean, it's all out here, right?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I actually went and did the math earlier this week about other teams' quarterbacks running against the Jags, and there have been some pretty decent games. Now, Mahomes ran for 60. There were a couple others in there, like Cam Ward, I think, had like a 20-yard day. Not huge numbers. There was a 40-yard day in there maybe from somebody. I can't remember who it was, so I went back and looked, and it felt like a lot. I actually added it up, and it added up to something like high 200s, like total yards given up. So then I went and looked and literally put in like most rushing yards given up by a quarterback, against opponents this year. And the Jags aren't even that high, to be quite honest with you. But they have given up some – like the Bills are higher than the Jags. If you guys remember, early in the year, that really hurt the Bills. Earlier in the year, the Bills gave up a lot of third-down scrambles, whether it was, New Orleans or even Tua escaped a couple times. Remember that? You remember the big one by Lamar? They've been better at that later in the year. But it feels like part of the reason why it feels like the Jags give it up because they don't give up to running backs. They don't give up a lot of yards to running backs, and sometimes – by necessity, the quarterback becomes more of the runner that has to do a little bit more to keep the offense moving a little bit. So I do think, Mike, to answer your question, that could very well be something the Bills lean into this week because if the Jags are going to try to shut down James Cook and really concentrate on that, then I think the Bills have to have a way to run the football outside of him to keep them honest, and that would have to obviously include Josh Allen.
We didn't talk about Dane Jackson, did we? Getting added to the 53? What do you think? I mean, what are they getting from this? He's been around a long time, in and out of on and off the team.
It's a really interesting move because I think this can be tied back to everything we talked about earlier, which is Matthew Prater, the other injuries going on. One of the options here for the Bills would be not just to elevate guys like a Matthew Wright or a Mecole Hardman. If they really needed to, they could sign a guy to the 53-man roster, and then you have to make a roster move. Now, by doing that, a guy goes on waivers. So if you walk through the roster and go, well, they do have 4 tight ends, right? Do you need Kaliki Latu on the roster? You could argue, yes, you do, because what happens if something happens to
Right.
Dalton Kincaid? You at least you win this week and
Right.
you need somebody, right? What happens if Latu gets claimed, right?
You
now
can't
you don't
treat
have
it like a 1 week season here. You're thinking about a month here of football, right?
That's exactly right, Bulldog. And let's remember, anybody released gets claimed off waivers. So that being said, I think the smart move was signing Dane Jackson to the 53 because I think they already know that Max Harrison isn't playing. All right, Max isn't playing. We know we're going to need another corner. They only have 2 boundary corners. That's Christian Benford. That's Tre'Davious White. They have Dane Jackson sitting there in the practice squad. Well, let's not burn one. We know we're going to play him. So let's sign him to the 53, and then we still have 2 elevations left. Dane Jackson is, to me, a good floor for a backup corner to have for you. You could do a lot worse than guys like that in the league. I understand the minute a guy like that gets like, oh, the Bills are signing him, fans kind of go a little crazy about, oh my God, he better not play. He's terrible. Every team has players like Dane Jackson on their team. And that is to say players who have been around, who are veterans, who know the system, that you put on the field if you need them, who you are confident can at least do a base level job. And I think that's what Dane Jackson is for them.
With Sal Capaccio, did you hear us talking about the referee for this game earlier, maybe?
I did not. Who is it?
Brad Allen.
Oh, okay.
So some interesting things, I think, about him. He had 3 Bills wild card games in a row. Indy, New England, and Miami. And in those 3 games, the Bills were called for an accepted total of 7 penalties. Total. 2, 3, and 2 in those 3 games. He also has stats that show him to be like the fewest penalties in the league. That's the case in 2025 on average. Last in calling offensive holding. The Bills tied for first in offensive holding penalties this year. Everything's coming up, not everything's coming up Bills because, home teams tend to win when he's the ref. But that's the case anyway, generally in the league. But if you're the type to, maybe be interested in this, I think some of the stats here with Allen look good. It might be the right choice for the Bills in the end.
Yeah, despite what Mike Vrabel had said a while back, I don't believe the Bills are any more number 1 unless you have something different. I'm going to look at it real quick. No, the Bills now are 28th in the NFL, 28th is worse. So I guess that'd be what, 32. They have the 4th most offensive holding penalties in the league.
I have Warren Sharp's site that says they're tied for first. So, but
no, they have according to the NFL Game and Information System, they were the top offensive holding team in the league until they played the Patriots, and Mike Vrabel went on the radio and cried about it the next day because the Bills didn't get any offensive holding penalties, which he was wrong. They did, and it negated a touchdown. But I digress. Since
Close
then,
enough.
Yeah,
Close enough.
But yeah, right. Anyway, that being said, they are 28th.
Anything anymore, Sal. Just say whatever you want. That's how it works.
It is interesting. I think that referee stats are interesting when you can follow trends. I also always want to make a point because as someone who's on the sidelines and has officials standing in front of me quite often, it's not the referee who throws the penalties really, other than a quarterback, a hold in the backfield or roughing the passer. It's all the other people on the field calling it. And in the playoffs, I believe they mix crews. I think they still have mixed crews. So who knows what to make of those stats? You know what I mean?
Yeah. The umpire is not from his crew, and he's a dentist. But I'm not sure of the stats on how dentists tend to call penalties, whether they're very strict or very lenient or what they are.
Yeah. Sal, is there anything that stands out so far? We're into Thursday. We've got tomorrow to talk about this, and then you guys will be traveling on Saturday, and, of course, it's game day on Sunday. From Jacksonville's side of things, the left tackles missed a couple of days of practice. That could be a decent-sized deal, I would think.
100%, yeah. Yeah, there's one thing on them, going back to what you guys just said, just so you're aware. The Jags have been called overall for the 3rd most penalties in the league this year. So they actually have been penalized the 3rd most of any team in the NFL. It's Dallas, Tennessee, and Jacksonville as the top 3 teams in the league overall. So we'll see if that matters in this game to any extent. They are missing their left tackle, Cole Van Lanen. He just signed a contract extension actually about I think a day after he even got hurt in a game a couple of weeks ago. There's just been a lot of stuff out of Jacksonville, how people are expecting him to play. And he said he was going to play, and then now here you are on Thursday. He hasn't practiced yet. So he could still play, but it could also be gamesmanship that maybe they're putting it out there that he's going to play. I'm not really sure. Jerrion Jones, their backup nickel, has been sick, but he was returned in a limited fashion today. They don't have The injury list the Bills do, that's for sure. They have a few other guys. Now, Patrick McCarry, he's one of Van Lannen's backups, actually. If he wasn't to play, he would play. He's been limited with a back injury. So I do think there's a few things there on the offensive line. And then they have Greg Newsome has been dealing with a shoulder injury. So, yeah, they have some injuries they're dealing with, but nothing like the Bills in that regard. I would say, too, I was on Jacksonville radio today, as you guys were talking earlier. I did hear you talking about other radio spots you were doing.
Yeah.
I was on Jacksonville radio today, and one of the hosts was Leon Searcy. Guys remember Leon Searcy?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm on with him, and it dawned on me. I said, I think, Leon, the last time the Bills won a road playoff game, you were on the team that they beat.
Miami.
And that is true. No. Steelers.
Well, that's the week before, but yes. They beat Miami.
Okay, the year.
Week.
I apologize, Mike. You're right. My apologies.
Same year, right.
That year. That was the last time the Bills, that year.
Right.
It was the day at the week after the comeback game, right?
Right,
Yes.
Pittsburgh. Right.
And he's like, wow. He's like, that's right. He said, boy, that's a long time ago. I'm like, I know. But the other thing is, because they were asking me about that, I mean, yes, the Bills have been, they're 0 for, 8 on the road? What is it under McDermott? For 5? Over, I can't remember the number.
6 maybe?
But
6 years in a row?
I'm like, guys, when
5
you don't play in the playoffs for 17 straight years, you're going to go a long time without winning a playoff game on the road. That's what's going to happen.
Right.
They have 4 road playoff wins ever, I believe. 65, 81, 92, 92 seasons.
Yeah.
Good to hear Leon Searcy has landed on his feet. Mike McDaniel out in Miami. What do you make of it?
I find it really interesting and curious, the timing of it, and I can't help but think that it ties back to Harbaugh being available.
Yep.
And I know there's been a lot of people always speculating that. They have a GM that they're interviewing named Alexander, I believe is his last name.
That's tight with Harbaugh. Yeah.
Yeah, and that would be a guy, but according to Jeff Darlington, who's pretty good down in Miami, that's his home base, so he's got the pulse on the Dolphins usually. And I know that I'm sure he's going to get this from the team a little bit and how they're going to want to put it out there. But he said, look, they're going to hire a GM and then they'll go from there. This isn't necessarily just about Harbaugh being available, but you have to kind of tie. I would think that it might be now.
Yeah, me too.
Harbaugh,
yeah, I read a long paragraph and it just felt like more than is necessary to prove to me, right? Like you protest too much. Right, it feels very much like Miami wants to make sure they don't get portrayed as, well, a guy we like more came on the market, so we're moving on from McDaniel. But that's almost definitely what happened.
Yeah, it feels like that's the case. And I think on the other side, though, if you're Harbaugh, sure, maybe he wants to go and live in Miami and work in Miami, and he's tight with this guy. But, I mean, he's got a lot of options, right? He wants to coach, apparently. I think the Giants fit with him pretty well. I mean, that's the kind of organization, the stability that they've had for many years up until recently. He's the kind of coach, I think, go in and stabilize things. Miami does need that too, right? Now, as far as McDaniel is concerned himself, I've always really respected Mike McDaniel as an offensive mind. I think he's a very, very smart offensive coordinator, offensive play caller. I've never had that same quite level of respect for him as a head coach. I'm not saying that, he's not, he can't do really good things. And he did take the team to the playoffs, but it is just a different deal to be a head coach and to be a coordinator. And when you do this, what I do, what you guys do, and you're around people long enough, you understand the different ways, and reasons why being a coordinator is much different than being a head coach. A head coach, especially these days, has to be much more of a CEO, whereas a coordinator is the guy that has to be kind of the brains behind the operation a lot of times to draw things up. And I just never felt that McDaniel was quite to the same level as a lot of these guys we talk about, but he's been an excellent coordinator. He's an excellent offensive mind. I also have a ton of respect for the guy because he has a personal struggle and story that we've talked about before that he's open about. And I just think that that's a guy that I root for in that realm.
Yeah, here on that. I agree across the board there. I think any team that I read already, Detroit is reaching out to him, and if they hire him, I think that's a home run with their talent on offense.
That's right. Now, I mean, I've seen Bills fans speculate would he fit in Buffalo with, if something were to happen with Joe Brady, whether he moves on to another team or the Bills move on from him. I don't know. I do think there's got to be, I think Mike McDaniel is a very good run coordinator. The Bills also run the ball really well already, right? That's his bread and butter, what he does. And I don't know. I haven't seen enough of him with anybody other than Tua that's made it work with a quarterback.
Right.
Yeah, you give anybody Josh Allen, they should be okay. But his system, what he does, seems to fit really well with that particular quarterback, just like Kyle Shanahan, where he, has the same system, fits really well with a Brock Purdy, right? And like there's just some guys who you get a certain quarterback with a certain skill set that really fit what you do, and then you go out of that, even if that guy is really talented, it just doesn't work for how you want to put it together.
Thank you, Sal. We'll talk again tomorrow.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
That's our dude, Sal Capaccio, on the Western Hotline. His appearances are brought to you by New York's only outlet liquor. When you need to stock up, it's the place to buy a case. What's your outlet?
I respect that, and this came up earlier with respect to McDaniel.